Music. There we go. Oh, you didn't get your clothes on. Hi, this is Sally Morgan, physical therapist, craniosacral therapist, and Tellington T-Touch practitioner for animals and people. This is Tristan, he's a Corgi, and this is a Conversations with a Corgi episode. And today we have an exciting and interesting topic that may be pretty weird sounding to some people listening. And I want to talk about the Ionic Footbath because I mentioned it the other day. I was late getting on because I had to Ionic Footbath myself. And so here is a picture of the one I have, which is the enhanced living one. See, it's a little tub, and then that's the case behind it. And that little thing laying in the tub is a little electrode array that goes in the tub with water, with salt, and the whole thing's plugged into the wall. So the reason I'm talking about this today is because I've used this thing for a couple of years, and I'm really impressed with the results in terms of how I feel and also the accuracy of the kind of stuff that you see floating in the water. You have a long list of things that will appear in that water. And for instance, when I've done it, I'm probably the only person in the world doing this with animals. And I haven't done it with a horse. There's just not enough room in there for more than one hoof, and I just don't think it would work. But I've done it with quite a few dogs, a lot of herding breeds and shepherd mixes with longer legs because they can sit with their two front paws in the tub with the person and with me next to them. It takes a half an hour. And so, it's not like the whole dog is getting wet and they're not getting a bath, but they do need to be patient and sit there. So a lot of people aren't doing this with animals, but I have found it to be really successful. And they seem to know that you want them to just sit with their feet in the water and then they're fine. So the Ionic Footbath is a great thing to use for a variety of problems. And I'll just tell you what some of them are based on their brochure, but I also know some of these from personal experience. It improves the symptoms of acid-based diseases, which include rheumatoid arthritis, regular arthritis, gout, and other conditions based on an acid situation in your body. Now, a lot of people think that nearly every disease is based on acidity in our body and an inflammation process that sets off. Certainly cancer has been associated with having acid in your body. Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, tons of diseases have been associated with an acid situation in your body. So this is why this Ionic Footbath can be helpful. They also say that it has anti-aging effects, possibly, increasing the user's energy level and metabolism, which promotes weight loss, and it helps regulate blood sugar. Certainly, high acid is a problem for blood sugar, and it reduces the pH balance within the blood and the entire body. I have a feeling this thing is too close to me. I'm just going to move it down here next to my Corgi. So, changing the acid balance in your body to more basic acidic is actually a really good thing. And as a result, it has proven to improve hormonal disorders, ADHD, stress conditions, panic, nervous disorder, including lack of focus and concentration. And it activates cell tissue throughout the body, which is good for your immune system. And it helps relieve tension, pain, and muscle aches. And I have to say, when I've had some pretty serious muscle problems going on, I've used this thing and found some relief from it. And it enhances blood circulation and oxygen flow throughout the body. So what does this thing do? I show you some pictures here. You sit with your feet in this thing for a half an hour. And then here are the pictures. Your feet are first in there and the water's all clean and nice. Sit a little longer. See how the water's getting kind of yellowish orange? And a little bit longer. And then the water's kind of icky. You can't even see the toes. And then in the final picture, after 30 minutes, the water is just brown looking. Now, most of that's floating on the top. It doesn't feel like your feet are sitting in sludge, which is what it looks like. But people often get confused about this, and it says in their disclaimer here, users do not detoxify through their feet. A lot of people would state that. I might even say that sometimes. The colors in the water are from the salt, the minerals in the water, and the perspiration from the user's feet. You do put salt in the water when you do this. The detoxification process is cellular and goes throughout the body, which is also really interesting. And of course, changing the pH balance in your feet can change the pH balance throughout your body, especially if you're sitting in that water for a half an hour or so. So it's not necessarily a process of the detoxing. But interestingly, the colors in the water and what's in the water, because there can be a variety of little things floating in the water, do reflect some of the things that might be going on in your body. And exactly how that process happens is a little vague, which is one reason a lot of people don't put much stock in this. So then we have this whole list here, which I got from another place, that shows a list of all the colors of the water. And I'll just highlight a few. It ranges from dark yellow to red, brown, orange, yellowish, dark brown. And some of the things, and I've had some of these things happen to me, are parasites. You can see little white things kind of floating in the water. If you've had exposure to parasites, which all of us do from walking or eating rare meat, drinking water untreated, fish, poultry, anybody that works with animals has some exposure to parasites. So there's that possibility. You can also get mucus, little clumps floating in there, and they say that's a allergy byproduct, and that it's one of the ways the body carries foreign particles out is through the mucus, which we all know from when we have had colds. The other thing that you can get floating around in there are black flecks, which are associated with heavy metals, particularly cadmium. And this was interesting to me. I have a dog hair in my eye. Because when I did a screen for heavy metals in my body, because I had some really bad water I was drinking for a few years, and then I had cancer, which increases your heavy metals, I had tons of heavy metals in my body, and cadmium was one of the most toxic levels that I had. It was so high they literally couldn't measure it. It was off the chart with cadmium. Now it's like medium, and that's after a lot of detoxing. So I had tons of these little black things floating around in the top, and it just looks like, like somebody just took the top of the water and colored little bits with a Sharpie on it. That's what these little black flecks look like. And then there's like white foam, which can be from lymphatic drainage. You can get an oily substance on the top, which can be from high cholesterol. And orange, my water is always orange because I have joint toxins, which is also associated with arthritis, inflammation, liver, gout, things like that. And of course, I don't have osteoporosis anymore, but when I did, the water was a lot more orange. It's Tristan's color. So the water will turn colors while you're floating in there. Now, just to kind of see how this works, I have run it with no feet in it, just water, and the water does not turn orange. So definitely something is happening when the human is entered into the process. So this treatment is effective as a detoxer because it alkalizes the entire body, which is interesting. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that idea of alkalized water, but now you can buy in a lot of places fancy water that is alkalized, because our bodies are supposed to be at a pH of 7, which is neutral, and often we are in a state of acid. Oh, why is that? Coffee, alcohol, sugar, processed foods, stress, toxins in the environment, pollution, poor air quality, all those things can create an acid situation in your body, which creates a lot of health problems for people. So just, if it does nothing else but change the pH of your body, this is a great thing. So in a perfect world, the human body functions best when you have 80% negative ions in your body and 20% positive, or negative. I said that backwards. 80% negative and 20% positive. So we should be in a negative balance most of the time. And when you think about it, when you go to the beach, one of the things we love about the beach is that it relaxes us and it smells good and we feel good. But the beach is loaded with negative ions. So they flood into our body and put it back into that balance of 80 negative and 20 positive that is ideal for our function. And so being on a vacation at the beach isn't just about taking time off from work. It really is about the environment and the ionic charge there. And there's actually something really interesting on the Weather Channel this morning. More snow coming to you, Danny, sorry. But they were talking about how lightning is generated. And so there's positive electrons high up in the atmosphere, negative in the middle, and then positive charge on Earth. And so when things change and the atmosphere becomes more turbulent, the negative and positive ions are attracted to each other and it creates lightning down on Earth. So, you know, if we were in that middle atmosphere above where we are, we would be in a negative charge. But you certainly get that around big bodies of water. And the ocean is one of them. Plus we have the salt in the ocean, which creates a more alkaline environment, which makes our bodies happier. And part of that is that the bodies of water pull those negative ions down from up above in the atmosphere. So they call the process of how this ion spa works ionization. And this biomagnetic field causes the sodium and potassium ions outside of the cell membrane to rearrange. So in your body, part of what makes your heart run is what they call the sodium and potassium pump. And you have a balance of these two things in your body, which is why they invented things like vitamin water and Gatorade. Because when you sweat a lot, if you're an athlete, you'll disturb that balance in your body and it puts you at a lot of risk for cardiac and muscle injury. So you want those potassium and sodium ions in the proper balance. So the salt that you put a little sprinkle in the water when you do this, really not even half a teaspoon. I mean, it's a sprinkle. The salt in the water acts as a bridge and allows the cell membranes to convert positive ions to negative ions. So basically, you're setting up a negative charge on your feeties when they're in the water. So when you have an acidic environment, which certainly I did after chemotherapy, no matter what I was doing, my body was stealing minerals from the rest of my body, like calcium, magnesium, potassium, and sodium, from my organs and, more importantly, from my bones, in order to try to keep itself at that ideal balance of 7. And so that is one reason I had such bad osteoporosis. There's like 50 reasons why I had bad osteoporosis, but one of them was that my body was becoming too acidic as a response to the chemotherapy and the drugs and the radiation and all of that. So that is really why I bought this, was after that period of time, I really needed to get my body back into an alkaline balance. So lots of diseases thrive in that acidic balance, including cancer, eczema, psoriasis, fibromyalgia, arthritis, candida, which is yeast, cancer, gout. All of these things are totally happy if you have an acidic environment, and none of them are things that you want to live with. They're all problematic. So one of the things here that we have a picture of are your blood cells. So if you have a high acid environment, we have this picture of the red blood cells. See how they're all kind of squashed and jumbled up and they don't have room? And see how they're mashed a little bit? In this other picture, these are red blood cells in an alkaline environment. See how they have a lot of space and they're round and they have a lot of integrity to their shape? See the difference? Really makes you want to go out and get one of those alkaline water things to put on your faucet, because they do make them. Or you can get one of these things, and these are a few $100s, and there's plenty of things you can buy that do some of the similar things. But I got this really just to work with dogs with it, because I knew that our dog foods create an acid environment in a lot of our pets. And I see a lot of dogs near the end of their lives when they have problems with their liver and their kidneys. And I've seen that we've been able to buy them a little more time and get a little detox going on by using this with them, which is why I got it in the first place. So it relieves the burden of detoxification from the liver if your body is more alkaline. And it enhances the natural detoxification process and absorption of proper nutrition if your body has that balance. And it also helps eliminate heavy metals and environmental toxins. And boy, this idea of heavy metals is very concerning. because they have linked over the years, starting back when they thought Alzheimer's was a result of using, what was it, tin pans? What were we using in the kitchen? It wasn't stainless steel. Aluminum to cook with. And that part of that was implicated in Alzheimer's and some of the other progressive dementia diseases of aging. Well, having studied this for some time with some naturopaths and on my own and doing other work and working with people that have dementia, Parkinson's, and Alzheimer's, I really, and many people agree with me, I really strongly believe heavy metal toxicity is an important part of these processes. And I do think that if we could intervene earlier in people's lives, maybe even later in life, but a lot of people at that age don't want to do any of the things that would get some of the metals out of their bodies. I think we really could reduce the incidence of some of these brain diseases of aging. So anyway, heavy metals are an important thing to think about. One of the naturopaths I worked with, because I was working with all these veterans that had dementia, and it's just like everything. So each case was so different and had so many different symptoms, and they all fit the constellation of the symptoms you have with heavy metal poisoning. And so I said to my naturopath, 2 or 3 different ones, why is this happening with all these old guys? And they said, well, they're all veterans. And when you think about it, when you're in a war situation, especially World War II, or even up into the 50s with Korea and some of the other conflicts we were in, the discharge of shooting, that smoke is loaded with heavy metals, and just being in those environments, and probably you had aluminum things you were eating your food out of for those couple of years when you were in the Army, and then living close to a highway, lots of heavy metals are in car exhaust, and lots of other things in our lives give us toxicity from heavy metals. So I think it's really important to try to keep heavy metals out of your body because they are strong neurotoxins. And I know a lot about this because I had a friend with a dog who had lead poisoning early in her life. And she lived in a big old house with lead paint underneath the siding, and it was all around the foundation of the house in little chippies that were not obvious. It was really just a fine powder mixed in with the dirt. And being a husky, this dog liked to dig in the ground and lay under the house all day and then come in and lick her paws. So when the dog was about 2 or 3 years old, this is going back to the early or mid 90s, she started to have like dementia symptoms, and she couldn't walk, and she was very cripply, and the vets were just trying to figure out what it was. And luckily there was a newish vet who was a recent grad who spent his spare time, because he had no life yet, looking up research on this dog's symptoms, and realized the dog had lead poisoning. And then it all fit with that idea of the lead paint from this house, and the dog licking her paws every night and getting just that amount of lead into her system. So they gave her an antidote, which was going to fix the lead to the bones of the body. Sounds great. Dog recovered, looked good. Dog lived to be like 17 years old. So around age 15, 16, when the dog was less active and was starting to get osteoporosis, as dogs sometimes do, and she had a very finicky appetite. So at that age, we were just feeding her whatever she would eat, which wasn't always ideal. Well, she started to develop the symptoms again. And my friend thought it must be from osteoporosis and the bones pulling that lead back into her system. But just to be on the safe side, she decided to have her tap water tested, which comes from the town of Northampton where she lived. Now, it also goes through some old pipes through the little subdivision where she is. 100-year-old pipes that are lead. So when she tested her water, the normal amount of lead in the water is something like, it's under like 10 parts per million. Hers was like 77. It was really high. So she realized that the water she was using for her dog was actually putting more lead into her system, and because she had been exposed to it as a puppy, it was 100 million times worse for her now. So she put a filter on her faucet. She put that filtered water through a Brita filter. She put that filtered water through another filter. And at that point, they each leave like 5% of the lead in the water in what's remaining. So they were filtered so many times. And boy, when she started doing that, that dog improved a little bit and kept going. And if I had had this foot bath, we would have used it on the dog. But I don't even know if these were around yet. Sorry, Tristan, I dropped something right under you. So heavy metals can be a pretty significant thing, and anything you can do to help eliminate them from your system or your dog's is useful. And again, metals are attracted to the positive and negative electrons and ions, and so it does make sense that would be one of the benefits of using this. And the other thing that these things are not approved or evaluated or anything by the FDA. So these are things that they've studied themselves. I mean, why would they be making them if they didn't do something, right? So the other thing that the Ion Spa does is strengthen the function of resistance to oxidization. Now, if you ever watch PBS and you listen to some of these doctors, including Harmon, who lives just out Western Mass from me here, he talks about the effects of oxidative stress on the body. And again, that comes from your body being in this acidic balance that is not a balance, and the toxins in our environment and our body's inability to process that and get it out of the system. So if this can help you by making your body more alkaline, resist oxidative stress, that's a really big thing. So and it can really help cut down on disease processes. And then it's also fun to look at the icky water and say, oh my gosh, look at that. Now, I've done this with a lot of people and quite a few dogs and myself for their entire protocol, which was like a month of treatments every couple of days. And I have to say, as I was going through the process for a month, I was feeling a little dizzy and spacey a couple of times afterwards because my body was just detoxing so much. And you have to really be conscious to drink a ton of water, try not to eat too much yucky food that day because your body's still kind of rebalancing. And it was a good thing. But I've also done this with tons of people. So I've done it with some college students. Well, what are they doing on the weekends? They're drinking, they're partying, they're downing tons of coffee. And you would think if they were from the Western Mass area with the green hills here and active summer lives, wouldn't be so gross, but their water has been some of the nastiest smelling and looking water that I've worked with because of their high level of drinking and the toxicity on their liver and then the caffeine to kind of keep them going. College students really, And similarly with my sister, she had a lot going on when I did this with her, and she's had some bouts with pretty non-specified illness and just kind of general weakness over her lifetime. And I think that doing this more frequently for her would be super beneficial because she's had a lot of stress in her life that does cause her to eat and drink in ways that she knows are not healthy, but she has to keep going. And then an interesting thing is I did it with my mom. Now, the interesting thing about my mom, when I did this with her, she was probably 75. And she's just eaten a conventional American diet her whole life. She doesn't shop organic. You couldn't even do that. She grew up on a farm, which sounds nice, but super toxic chemicals used as pesticides and things during the years that she was living on a farm. But my mom has the attitude that something from a farm isn't going to hurt her, and that fresh produce from a farm stand, even if it's sprayed with toxic things, in her mind, it's still fresh Jersey produce, which she loves. And so her whole attitude is that nothing in the world is going to harm her, which is a profound thing. A lot of people can't get to that place, but that's just how my mom is. And so when I did this with her, and she's had some bouts with osteopenia, and she was on Fosamax and all that stuff. But when I did this with her, there was hardly anything yucky floating around in that water when we were done. And you would think when somebody is sort of a senior that you'd expect an accumulation of stuff in there, but not really. It really does depend on the individual and your lifestyle. Those young college students who had an active lifestyle, I thought, oh, that water won't show much. But boy, those were toxic young students I worked with. And then we tried to get my dad to do it. He's got a myriad of things going on with him, but he refused to do it. And I think, sometimes like the old guys I worked with at the nursing home, they just don't want to know. They figure, I'm 90, I'm 87, I'm 81, whatever. I'm just going to carry on, and, I'm so old that nothing's going to get better for me. And that's a different attitude than other people have. So, and when I was at the expo where I first learned about these, there were probably 40 people sitting in a circle over a period of 2 hours doing this. And the variety of reactions in the water from the different people was remarkable. I mean, it's not just the same for everybody by a long shot. And some of it was stinky and gross, and some of it was hardly anything. And the people that were doing it that day would go around and say to the person, "Oh, let's see, have you had chemotherapy in the last 6 months?" And they were right every time based on what they were seeing. So it is kind of an interesting process to do the Ionic Footbath. So that's what I wanted to talk about today, my experiences with the Ionic Footbath. Plenty of chiropractors have them in their offices, and I know one guy around here, they have shown that this is good for kids with learning disabilities and ADHD and maybe even autism, I don't know. But a lot of those processes do involve a higher acidic level in the body than is ideal. So if you can do anything to change the pH of a person's body, which includes sitting with your feet in water for 20 minutes with some salt, then let's try it. So a lot of chiropractors, one around here I know works with a lot of school kids, he'll have 20 people sitting out in his office there with their feet in the water every afternoon, and it's like $20. So if you're interested in trying this, check around some chiropractors or naturopaths in your area. Sue Banger, Dory and I are leaving New Jersey for Washington this morning. Oh, Dory's leaving for Washington. You'll only see her virtually from now on. Bye, Sue and Dory. Have a safe trip. We can't wait to see pictures of you at the beach in Washington. We will miss you so much, but we'll always treasure our pictures from the Corgi picnic. Somebody was here the other day saying, "Oh my God, Tristan looks like he's so in love with that dog." And I was like, he was trying to jump on Dory to save him from the scary background in the photo. Wow, Sue. Well, we'll see you virtually. It'll be a lot earlier in the morning out there. We might only catch you on the weekends when it'll be 7:30 when I'm doing this. So that's a look at the Ionic Footbath and its benefits for pets and people. And I look forward to using it a lot more on dogs in the future. Like I said, I haven't been able to try it. My sister's got a variety of dogs at her house that I'd love to try it on. Not all of them are that patient. Some of them have some things going on in their systems that might be really interesting to see what's coming out in the water. Cavaliers are borderline. Some of hers too short to put their front legs in the water and then have the body of the dog still be able to stand over top of the thing. But she's got some leggier ones. We might try it with some of the old guys. So thanks for joining us today. Sue and Dory, have a safe trip. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're leaving. Sad day for us, although we never saw you except in Philly in June, but we'll miss you this year. Thanks for joining us, and that's a look at the Ionic Footbath for pets and people to change your body's pH. Tristan. Don't be jealous, Dory. He does have a little Cairn Terrier named Coco up the street that he really likes. She looks a lot like you, though. You have a prettier white nose and chest, but... And just a little side note, my guy Brian's family is moving and he will be in limbo for about a month. We're going to try to keep the Conversations with a Corgi uploaded on YouTube pretty regularly. He can do that remotely, we hope. And I am working with him today frantically to get a lot of computer stuff caught up before he's gone for 6 weeks so that things can run smoothly while he's in that break period. And then he is going to be living quite a bit further from me, so it might be a little trickier trying to get some things computer-wise taken care of. But so we're busy today, and I'm recording some PowerPoint presentations for an online summit that I will give you more information about. And also, if you live anywhere around Albany, Judy, my sister, and I, and Tristan, he'll be the only dog there probably, will be at this animal wellness day in Albany, New York next weekend. There's plenty of information about it on my website and on my Facebook page. So if you're anywhere in the Western Mass, New York area, people are coming in from really far away and there's super good speakers, and we'll talk a little more about it as we get closer in a week. But Suzanne Clothier is coming, my sister is there, some of the other real forerunners in pet feeding and training will be there. It's going to be exciting. So we'll see you then. Thanks for joining us. Everybody have a great day. Safe travels, Sue and Dory. We'll think about you. If you're in South Dakota, wave to Danny when you drive by.